All right, Rob
What?
G, give us the rundown on Patrick Mahomes in the AFC playoffs.
Yeah, this one is shocking. I think even the great Chris Broussard and Rob Parker would be surprised by this one. Entering this weekend's AFC playoffs, of all the quarterbacks that are in it, Patrick Mahomes, age 27, still relatively young gun in his career, I believe, is the oldest starting quarterback in the AFC.
That is amazing.
Ooh, that really is.
And that speaks to what we were just talking about, though, Chris, doesn't it? About Brady in Miami. Like the AFC is filled with a ton of young quarterbacks, young guns, man. I just – but anyway.
And it's nobody's fault, but Rob, I'm going to be honest. I think I'd like to see it spread to the NFC a little bit. I mean, you got the three best quarterbacks in football are in the AFC. Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, probably those are the three, yep.
And then you got Herbert in the, if you're talking about the next batch, Justin Herbert's in there in that group. Lamar Jackson, when he's healthy, is in that group. Jalen Hurts in the NFC is in that group. But who else? Brady and Rodgers, I'm taking them out just because of their age. Like Trevor Lawrence is coming, right? Coming up. This was a good year for him. But he's in the AFC too, Rob.
Yeah.
Derek Carr is in the AFC for
I'm
now,
just saying,
at least.
right, it's loaded. Loaded, Chris.
Deshaun Watson, if he gets back
he's in
to
the
himself,
AFC.
Right. So I mean, you got Dak, but Dak isn't, I'd say Dak is third tier.
You got him down to third now?
I would put him below, now look, he does have experience over Herbert. He's not Lamar. I guess if you want to say Lamar hadn't gotten it done in the playoffs, but I don't think Dak is Lamar, because Lamar is the engine for his team. Dak is not that, right?
Yeah, and that's interesting because if you really look at Dak, that's probably, he has dropped, Chris, considering all the new young quarterbacks that have come along lately. When you start to look at it and you start to pick and put first tier, second tier, I don't know if Dak is there.
Depending on how, it depending on how many you have on each tier. But yeah, right now he's probably third tier. He can change the narrative about him, Rob, because I think right now, and I've liked Dak. You know that. You used to rib me about it, right?
No, I know you like him.
But the narrative about him, and it's hard to argue right now, is that he can't win the big game or beat the good teams, and that his numbers are empty calories, because a lot of them they're down big, team goes prevent, he brings them back to some degree. He can start to change. He can change that or start to change it by beating Tampa Bay.
Chris, if he beats Tom Brady in Tampa Bay and he plays well, I'm talking about just not, you don't have to be a superstar, but plays well, man, does that change the narrative.
Right. Now I don't think the full narrative, I think for the full narrative about Dak, Rob, to change, I think they have to get to the NFC title game. I don't know who they would end up playing in the second round. Maybe if they lose to San Francisco or Philly and he plays well, that might do it. But I don't think just beating. I mean, I think it'll help. I think it'll be a step in the right direction if he beats Tampa. But remember, Tampa's 8-9. Brady is 45, and as you said, having not his typical year.
But
and remember, who's beating Brady? Nick Foles. Eli. Now Eli is obviously was a good quarterback, but he's beaten Brady twice. Nick Foles beat him. Like, some quarterbacks who aren't the greatest have beaten Brady in the playoffs.
But the only difference
I don't know that that's enough.
I think that this is huge because Brady's never lost to the Cowboys. I think that's the one, Chris, because he's never lost to the Cowboys. And if Dak can play well, people will be like, okay, like it's a start. And don't get me wrong. If they play the next round, he throws 3 picks.
Right.
We're back to that.
Right.
So I'm not kidding myself into saying that people will be satisfied with just a win over Brady. But if he loses to Brady in that team, in that situation, Chris, and he throws 2 or 3 picks, all bets are off in Dallas. All bets are off.
If he loses to Brady and has that type of game, let's say 2 picks.
Yep.
The narrative going into the season next year, like this year, Rob, last year, the narrative surrounding Dak and the Cowboys was what? Oh, he's going to lead them to the Super Bowl. He can, right? This is a Super Bowl team. And, they were asking, is he going to throw for 6,000 yards, which was ridiculous. But they were asking that, right? The narrative going into next season, if he loses to Brady, would be, as I said, like, this guy is not good enough to get them where they need to go. I think that's what it would be.
It would be, and those questions would be asked to Jerry Jones. They'd be looking for a new coach.
What do you think McCarthy, how much of a hot seat do you think he's on? If they get blasted,
if they lose to Tampa Bay, Chris, he's out.
You think just a loss? I'm not sure. I'm not saying it wouldn't be the right move, but I don't know if that would be enough. Jerry.
On paper, the Cowboys are better.
Oh,
they should win this game, and I get it. And I don't want to hear about being on the road or whatever. Chris, good teams win road games. You got to win a road game. Can't use that as an excuse. A lot of good teams have gone on the road and won, and they got to do it. If they play to their capability, they should beat Tampa Bay. And if they don't, I just think you would look at Mike McCarthy and go, okay, I think that Jerry would have to reconsider and then look at the coaches who are out there, Chris.
Well, Sean Payton
would be like, hey, what's going on or whatever, and then he'd have to decide if he wants to work for Jerry and all the circus that comes with being a Cowboys coach.
I hear you on McCarthy. Here's my thing, though. I don't think ultimately, the reason that the Cowboys are so inconsistent, so unpredictable, I've talked about the culture. I think it's the culture Jerry sets. And I think McCarthy does not push back on that, which is probably a big reason why Jerry likes him.
Yeah, that's why he hired him, right?
Yeah, and I think all you said about if they don't show up, which we know is a good chance.
We've seen it.
Right. They'll bring their F game in a minute, So if they don't show up and lose, McCarthy will probably get the blame, especially if it's ugly.
You got to remember this, Chris.
I think it'll be a lot on Jerry, and that's not changing, obviously. So I don't know, whoever you bring in. Now, Peyton would want to change it, but that might be why he can't work with Jerry.
Right. And here's the only reason I think it's McCarthy. Because last year, they had the best offense. They had lost a home game to the 49ers, remember? And the offense looked awful.
And the offense scored the team scored 17 points.
Right. And one
32.
And one was late in the game. They were out of that game. That last touchdown was.
They scored 50 against Philly, right? At the end of that season last year. I mean, they had two of their last games. Last regular season games were ridiculous in terms of the points they put up.
Because they had the highest scoring offense, am I right, a year ago?
Yes.
I'm almost positive.
Yes.
And when you think of that and where they are.
Here it was, Rob, quickly.
What was it?
The last game of the season, they beat Philadelphia 51-26.
Okay.
And 3 games, the third to last game, they beat Washington 56-14. And then you go out against a wild card team and lay an egg offensively.
Right, at home. So that's what I'm saying. If they laid another egg, that would be back-to-back eggs for McCarthy, right? One at home and then one on the road to a broken down Tampa Bay.
Yeah. They lose this. I'm picking them to lose because it's not so much Tampa beating them as I think it is Dallas just not really showing up.
And I'm picking Dallas, Chris, not because I believe in them or I truly believe they're this and that and they're great. I just think so much is on there, and I just don't think Tampa's that good.
They're not.
I just don't.
They're not.
And I get the Tom Brady and his history and all that. I just don't think that Tampa's good.